What is your assessment of the pace of the vaccine rollout so far?
Well, I think, we anticipated it would have a few hurdles to jump, and it has been a very stuttering rollout to date. We certainly haven't achieved anything like the targets we wanted to achieve. We're about 60, at best 70% in some states, less than that in others. So it hasn't been a great rollout, but it's only going to get better, I hope, as AstraZeneca comes on board, which will be logistically easier for hubs and GP clinics as well to administer. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks that we're going to get a big ramp up, because we're way behind if we're going to think to try and finish this by the end of October, and we certainly won't reach our March figures, that's for sure.
Are those delays justifiable? I mean, as Brendan Murphy said today, there's no burning platform in Australia. The Prime Minister's keen to point out that safety is the priority here, but we have had a bit more time than other countries to plan this rollout. Yeah,
it has been. Look, I think really most of us that are experiencing this sort of thing would say it hasn't been a great start. We've had a long time to prepare it. We knew the February date went well and truly in advance, so we had a lot of time to get logistics organised. I don't think we really had enough hubs to start with, and it was a very small number of hubs in each state as well. Yes, the Pfizer vaccine's a little bit more difficult because of the -70 storage situation, but it keeps very well for 5 days in an ordinary 2 to 8 degree vaccine fridge. So it's not that difficult. So it is hard to justify. But what I'm hoping, I still haven't had it, for instance. I've been knocking on the door every day, but still haven't got it. And I would have thought I'd be a 1A category healthcare worker. So there's a lot of people who should have had it by now that haven't had it. So, we've got a long way to go, and we need to improve the delivery, that's for sure.
For those people who are reading all the information available about the different types of vaccines, the Pfizer, the AstraZeneca, and coming to the conclusion that the Pfizer vaccine is the one they want to get, but of course, as we know, that's not the one most of us will end up having. What's your message to them, to people who might be thinking, well, I might just sit back and wait and see if any other better options turn up?
Well, we won't have anything else. Novavax is the next vaccine in the queue, but that's still undergoing phase 3 trials. So we won't have Novavax on board till July or maybe August. So I don't think people should be sitting back waiting for that. Novavax is a good vaccine, but doesn't particularly look any better than the Pfizer vaccine. I think the Pfizer vaccine, if you really distill it all down, is a bit better than AstraZeneca, although there's some very encouraging figures just come out from Scotland where AstraZeneca has been very effective in keeping people out of hospital. So AstraZeneca is still a good vaccine. I like to think of it that Pfizer should probably be for the most at risk who are going to have significant COVID complications if they got infection, for frontline healthcare workers, border quarantine, aged care, etc. And AstraZeneca should be a really population workhorse vaccine for people who are younger, fitter, less likely to encounter the virus during their occupation, less likely to have complications. So don't get me wrong, AstraZeneca is still a very good vaccine. I fully support AZ as well. And look, if I'm going to get immunised this Sunday, if I get AZ, then I'll be happy enough to have that. But I think Pfizer probably is slightly better for us, more at risk. But look, they're both very good vaccines. I really encourage people to be immunised. I think this is incredibly important. So when your turn comes, you should front up and have it.
What are the risks of further outbreaks at this point with the vaccine rollout underway? We have seen wastewater results showing up in Adelaide, for example, this week, suggesting that the virus could be in some suburbs there. A couple of weeks ago, we saw reports of wastewater results showing COVID in New South Wales and parts of Victoria, Queensland. What are the risks at this point?
Well, firstly, wastewater. I think I defy anybody to really say, what does wastewater detection of COVID fragments mean? To me, I don't think it means very much at all. I just don't think you can really draw much of a line from the wastewater stuff at all. So park that for a minute. What we do know is we've essentially got no COVID in Australia at the moment. Anything we're getting is only being brought in from international and in hotel quarantine. So we haven't had an outbreak for some time now. So our figures are very low. And this should be, and I fully support the New South Wales Premier here to just disband shutting state borders. I think that's the first thing that has to go. And that has to go, well, now, but should have gone months ago. We need to have our country open up for interstate travel. Sure, keep the international border closed for now until we have a significant number of the population immunised, and that might be 60-70%. So we may not be opening international borders to other than low incidence countries until the end of the year. So that's fine, but we really need to get Australia up and moving and get the vaccine rolled out as fast as we possibly can, and hopefully have everybody done that wants to have it done by October.
It's one thing to say that get the country up and moving again, but that's going to require a significant mind shift, isn't it, for most Australians? As Paul Kelly, the Chief Medical Officer, pointed out this week, we need to start managing expectations about COVID case numbers in this country, because realistically, as those borders do start to reopen, it's likely we will see more COVID here. That's the reality despite the vaccine rollout, isn't it?
No, not at all, because we have so little endemic COVID in Australia from our local acquisition. So really, all our COVID is coming in from overseas. So if we have effective quarantine, and we've talked about this before, Ash, haven't we? The hotel quarantine is not the ideal, in my opinion. But if we have effective international quarantine, I think that's better in dedicated quarantine centres. Then we should keep COVID out, and it shouldn't leak out into the community. And we've essentially got no community COVID at all in Australia. So we should not be scared. We shouldn't be hiding behind state borders and reacting to single case, inverted commas, outbreaks and shutting borders like we do here in Western Australia. We should just be brave, be bold, get things moving, and just get people travelling interstate and get everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible to stop the premiers being overreactive and saying, well, let's shut the border because we've got a single case in the community and we've only got 3% of our population vaccinated. So we've just got to change the way we think. There's very little likelihood we're going to get a significant outbreak. If we do get cases, we've got great testing and tracing up and running now. We've had a lot of time to perfect that, and we've shown in WA and in other states that there's been very little transmission even of these new British and South African variants. So I think it's very safe now. People should stop being so scared about it.
What about international borders though, Clay? When would you be confident to book your next international holiday?
Well, New Zealand now, I'd fly to New Zealand tomorrow with no qualms at all. And some of the Pacific Islands and perhaps Singapore as well. But we're a long way off going to places like Europe, UK, US. So that they are, and I really think in reality they are next year's options, but certainly some of the local countries that have very low COVID cases, we should be looking at trying to travel as soon as possible. And I would really like to see good reciprocity with New Zealand happening right now, Ash.
Dr Clay Golledge, we always appreciate your insights. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us this morning.
Thanks, Ash.